We both come from families that work really hard. Both of our parents work really hard. We're very working class.
This was meant to be the dream of football empire, dripping in gold, billionaire luxury, and a wedding that had the whole world hypnotized. The Beckhams and the Peltzes looked untouchable, like modern royalty dressed in designer suits, cruising on private jets, flashing those flawless Instagram smiles. But behind the glamour and perfect photos, the picture was cracking. And Brooklyn Beckham just dropped the spark that set it all off. He didn't hold back this time. He spilled everything. What began as soft whispers about wedding chaos has now exploded into a wild public war that's shaking up Hollywood's inner circle. No one saw it coming, and now Brooklyn and Nicola are standing tall, refusing to fold no matter how messy things get. Fans can't stop talking online. Everyone's wondering how such a perfect fairy tale could twist into a family feud this dramatic. The drama's spreading fast, and people are asking the big question, could this really put a dent in the legendary Beckham name? Brooklyn Beckham has lived in the spotlight since day one, literally born into fame as the son of David and Victoria. Beckham, cameras, gossip, and endless comparisons shadowed him everywhere. But now, Brooklyn's finally speaking his truth, and the world's realizing what looked like privilege was really a cage. He dropped hints that the same empire that made him famous also trapped him in its golden cage. No space to breathe, no freedom to grow, and definitely no room to make his own moves. For years, insiders have whispered about the quiet tension between Brooklyn, his wife Nicola Peltz, and the Beckham clan, but now those whispers have turned into a full-blown war. Everyone used to think it was just normal family stuff, handled quietly behind the scenes, but not anymore. Everything flipped the second Brooklyn dropped a multi-part statement that rocked both fans and Hollywood insiders. In it, he accused his parents of trying to control every part of his life, from his career to his marriage, putting the Beckham brand above his happiness. That's when the story went from family drama to pure chaos. And then came the biggest bombshell. He said he's not looking for any reconciliation. That single line blew everything apart and left the world in total shock. To understand how it spiraled this far, you've got to rewind to April 2022, the wedding. That looked like it came straight out of a dream movie. Brooklyn and Nicola's Palm Beach celebration had over 500 guests, A-list stars, and every luxury you could imagine. It took place at the Peltz family's breathtaking oceanfront, a stated picture of perfection. But behind those glowing smiles and million-dollar photos, the cracks were already spreading fast. Brooklyn revealed that the first real explosion started with something as simple and symbolic as the wedding dress. He said, Victoria Beckham had promised to design Nicola's gown but suddenly backed out at the last minute, leaving everyone stunned. Nicola ended up wearing Valentino instead. But according to Brooklyn, that switch set off a storm of emotions on what was supposed to be their happiest day. What looked like a fairy tale moment might have actually been the spark that started a deep family divide still tearing at the seams today. The Beckhams stayed quiet, never putting out an official statement. But soon, the stories started flying and it became crystal clear. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a battle for control. The quiet tension turned into viral headlines. Brooklyn said it was meant to be his and Nicola's magical first dance, a once-in-a-lifetime moment they'd treasure forever. But when singer Mark Anthony grabbed the mic, everything flipped in seconds. Instead of calling Nicola to the floor, Mark reportedly said, "Let's welcome the most beautiful woman in the room, Victoria." Brooklyn claims Nicola froze on the spot, then ran off in tears while the crowd stood there, stunned and speechless. And if that wild moment wasn't enough, Brooklyn says Victoria actually started dancing with him, her own son, right there. He later described the whole scene as painfully awkward and flat-out humiliating. He even said someone told him to put your hands on your mother's hips while his new bride was off stage crying her eyes out. It was the kind of scene you'd never expect at a wedding that big. Witnesses said the energy instantly shifted, the room went tense. Guests were trading worried glances, and no one knew where to look. That one dance changed everything for Brooklyn. What should have been a beautiful memory turned into something he says he'll never forget. But for all the wrong reasons, the tension ran so deep that he and Nicola decided to renew their vows privately later, just to reclaim the magic that moment stole from them. For Brooklyn, that dance became more than just awkward. It became a symbol. He said it marked the exact moment boundaries were crossed and control was ripped right out of his hands. It was a painful reminder that his parents weren't ready to let him truly live his own life. This wasn't just about a dance anymore, it was about power, identity.
Brooklyn Beckham has posted a very lengthy Instagram statement explaining exactly what happened between him and his family, and he says he's not being controlled and it's not because of his wife.
He said that decision could have changed everything: his business, his marriage, and even the future of his family's legacy. That's way past family tension. That's his identity on the line. Not long after all the chaos, fans noticed something huge. Brooklyn quietly updated his name to Brooklyn Peltz Beckham. What once looked like a cute rebrand suddenly made perfect sense. It was his bold way of saying he's done living in the shadow of the Beckham brand and ready to carve his own lane. Brooklyn later opened up about how love inside the Beckham household came with strings attached. He said affection and support always seemed to depend on what looked good for the brand. Show up at Fashion Week, post the perfect photo, smile for the cameras, that was the deal. But skip an event, miss a photo op, or forget a brand-friendly post, and suddenly, the warmth vanished. That's when Brooklyn says it hit him. Even family love had turned into part of the business. Since dropping his explosive statement, Brooklyn and Nicola haven't flinched one bit. Photos of the two, walking through Malibu, hand in hand, smiling and relaxed, show a couple totally at peace with their choices. Sources close to them say they finally feel free, like a massive emotional weight has been lifted after years of pretending everything was perfect. They're reportedly relieved that the truth is out, and they no longer have to play the role of the picture-perfect Beckham family. Now at 26, Brooklyn looks laser-focused on living life his way. Far from the non-stop pressure of the Beckham empire, Brooklyn's been channeling his energy into fresh projects that actually make him feel alive. He's gone all in on his passion for food, dropping his Cooking with Brooklyn series, launching his own golden hot sauce, and building his lifestyle brand Cloud 23. On top of that, he's putting money into ventures that have nothing to do with his famous last name, proving he's not just another celebrity kid riding the family name. It's crystal clear Brooklyn's carving his own lane and showing the world he doesn't need the Beckham legacy to make moves. For him, this isn't about rebellion. It's about survival. He's not out here trying to burn bridges. He's just trying to breathe again. Meanwhile, the silence from the Beckham side has been deafening. David and Victoria haven't said a single word, no statement, no defense, not even a peace offering. Insiders say the family's deeply hurt, but they're keeping quiet to stop this mess from turning into a full-blown media war. Still, the fallout keeps spreading. Reports claim Brooklyn's even blocked his parents on social media and only speaks through lawyers now. His younger siblings have stayed neutral in public, but fans are spotting little clues, subtle likes, cryptic captions, even song choices that suggest there's a lot more happening behind the scenes. Every single move feels charged, leaving fans asking one big question: whose side are they really on? But beneath all the online noise, there's a bigger question that no one can ignore. Is this just an emotional feud, or something way deeper? For years, Brand Beckham stood as the ultimate picture of unity, loyalty, and global success. They were the blueprint for a perfect power family, untouchable, admired, and always in sync like a well-oiled machine. But now, that carefully polished image is starting to crack right in front of the entire world. And what we're seeing might just be the surface of something far more explosive. When Brooklyn accused his parents of putting Brand Beckham before their own family, he didn't just spill family secrets, he shook the foundation of a 25-year-old empire. The Beckhams spent decades crafting their name with precision, discipline, and total control over how the world saw them. Every red carpet smile, every candid photo, every sweet family post, it was all part of the master plan to show they weren't just famous. They were the family. But Brooklyn's words tore straight through that illusion. He basically said the perfection was all an act, and behind those glossy photos were pressure, control, and exhaustion. He described growing up under constant watch, always feeling like he couldn't just be himself, that every move he made, whether modeling, taking photos, or trying to act, had to protect the brand. It wasn't just fame anymore, it was a full-time performance. Everything had to fit perfectly into the Beckham blueprint. To the world, it all looked glamorous, flawless, even, but to Brooklyn, it became a lifetime of anxiety. He said even his own dreams had to match a family script that never truly felt like his. No matter what he did, it never seemed to be enough. And the critics tore into him without mercy. They slapped him with the label Nepo Baby, a tag that stuck to him like a shadow. From the outside, his life looked like pure luxury. But to Brooklyn, it felt like living under a microscope, never allowed to fail quietly, never allowed to just be human. That's why Nicola's arrival in his world hit so differently. She came from a whole other kind of fame, still wealthy, still known, but raised in a family that cared more about privacy, closeness, and real connection than keeping up a perfect public image. In her own words, the Peltz home wasn't about appearances. It was about being there for each other. Brooklyn has said that meeting Nicola changed him completely. She showed him what calm, genuine love actually looks like. And once he felt that, there was no turning back. But the most emotional twist in Brooklyn's story isn't about fame, money, or design or anything. It's about something heartbreakingly simple. Dogs. He claimed that during the devastating Los Angeles wildfires, Nicola reached out to Victoria, asking for help rehoming displaced animals, and according to him, his mother refused to get involved. That moment, he says, showed him just how cold the divide had become. That single claim hit fans hard. It wasn't about fame or ego anymore. It was about basic compassion. Whether there's more to the story or not, that moment became deeply symbolic for Brooklyn. A painful sign of how distant things had gotten when he was just hoping for a little warmth, empathy, and family support. To him, it wasn't really about the animals. It was about realizing how even the smallest gestures can expose who truly cares. And that's exactly why this feud has blown up so wildly, because there aren't any clear villains here. Just two sides, each telling their own version of the same messy story. Online reactions are split straight down the middle. Some people are rallying behind Brooklyn, saying he's finally breaking free, after years of pressure and control. They're calling his confession raw, emotional, and long overdue. But others are fiercely defending David and Victoria, reminding everyone of the love, the support, and the massive opportunities they gave him. To them, Brooklyn's accusations didn't just cross a family line. They shattered a boundary that should have never been broken in public, no matter how deep the pain runs. And right in the middle of all this chaos stands Nicola Peltz, the lightning rod of the entire storm. Critics accuse her of being the one pulling Brooklyn away from his famous family, claiming she's been fueling the divide for her own influence. But her supporters are clapping back just as loud, arguing that she's become an easy target simply because she represents change. In this story, every move she makes sparks another wave of controversy, and the world can't look away. They say it's always easier to blame the new wife than to face the cracks that were already splitting a family apart. But Brooklyn hasn't flinched for a second. He's been clear from day one Nicola's not controlling him. In fact, he says the total opposite, that stepping away from his parents finally gave him the peace he's been chasing his whole life. That's a huge statement, and he's standing on it with zero hesitation. What makes everything even messier is the timing. This isn't some heat-of-the-moment rant from a guy desperate for attention. It feels calculated, deliberate, and maybe even years in the making. This entire explosion didn't just appear overnight. It's the result of years of quiet frustration, finally erupting in public. Brooklyn says he tried for the longest time to keep things private, but he hit his breaking point. Once that line was crossed, staying quiet wasn't an option anymore. He felt like he had to speak up to finally set the record straight, no matter the cost. And that's what makes all this hit so deep. When Brooklyn announced that he didn't want reconciliation, it didn't sound like an emotional outburst or a temporary fight. It felt heavy, final, and deliberate, like a door being closed for good. That's a chilling thing for any parent to hear. Fame or not, David Beckham, for his part,
we know the words too, but why would you sing the words before the words come? Is it to bother her?
I have no idea.
You just sing before the words?
Yeah.
But that's not the song.
I know, but that's...
that would drive me
that kind of
crazy.
thing annoys her, obviously.
Yeah, that would drive...
came off distant, maybe even too calm for something this emotional. Victoria, though, has stayed completely silent, not a single public word. And that silence has fans divided. Many don't see it as strategy. They see it as heartbreak. Insiders say she's devastated by the thought that she might not be part of Brooklyn and Nicola's future children's lives. And that idea, they claim, cuts the deepest of all. So what happens now? No one really knows. Some crisis experts believe time could smooth things out. That maybe, when emotions cool and the spotlight fades, the family might quietly reconnect. But others aren't so sure. They think the damage runs too deep, that this rift might be one of those breaks that never fully heals. Because once accusations like these hit the public eye, there's no real way to go back. No private dinner, no quiet apology can erase what millions have already seen, shared, and analyzed online. And that's the heartbreaking part. This stopped being about a wedding or fashion feud a long time ago. Now, it's about love, pride, and a family empire cracking under its own shine. What we're really seeing here is a family unraveling, right in front of the world, paying the heavy price of what happens when private pain explodes into public view. Right now, Brooklyn and Nicola are keeping their distance, choosing peace instead of messy damage control. They're stepping out of the spotlight, showing up less, and taking full control over how their story gets told. Meanwhile, David and Victoria remain silent, maybe hoping that quiet dignity will speak louder than any public statement ever could. And the world is watching curious, emotional, and completely divided, wondering if this is truly the end of a long, painful chapter, or just the start of something that's never going to fully mend. Because when a family built on unity cracks open in front of everyone, those fractures don't just heal overnight. The once flawless image is now chipped and raw, revealing something real underneath. A family that's not perfect, not untouchable, but deeply human, no matter which side people stand on. One thing's for sure, this story has changed the Beckham legacy forever. What was once seen as a royal legacy now stands as a reminder that even the most glamorous families can crumble when the cameras stop rolling. If you've been keeping up with this wild saga, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think really went down behind the scenes? Stay tuned for more, right here on FameWatch Daily.